Welcome to Your Personal Power Pod, a podcast about aligning yourself with the life you want. And here are your hosts, Sandy Abel and Shannon Young. Shannon, it's so fun to talk to you today. How are you?
Hi, Sandy. I'm well, thank you. How are you? How was your holiday weekend?
It was very unexciting.
Low-key.
There's the word, low-key. It was low-key. We just sort of hung out and did stuff around the house. It was very nice, actually. The weather was good. So how about yours?
It was good. It was busy. I traveled and saw family, which was awesome. But then it was nice to come back and not have anything to do yesterday, to just kind of sit and be grateful for the yard in whatever state of finished it is in currently. And just to, have a moment to breathe, which I think is really important.
Absolutely. We talk about that all the time. Mm-hmm. That's called self-care.
Yes.
And it's important to just stop and appreciate where you are and just sit there. And I'm glad you had time to do that. That's very cool because you were busy all the time.
Yes, some of that. I think it's also important to have a moment when you do have time to sit and breathe, to ask yourself some questions. And we're going to talk about one of those questions today.
Yes, today we're talking about what are you creating? Is your life going the way you want it to? You have enough money, a clean, safe place to live, food to eat, satisfying work, loving people in your life? Or are some of those things not what you hoped they'd be? Many people don't realize that how your life unfolds is usually up to you. When you're little, of course, it's not your choice. You come into what you come into and you deal with it. But once you're an adult, the goals you set, the choices you make, and the ways you choose to move ahead all define how your life is going to go. So today we're going to look at that.
It's powerful. I think a lot of us just move through our day being buffeted by the things that happen to us and the situations that we're placed in. And it doesn't have to be that way. There will definitely be things that come out of the blue and you'll get side swiped from time to time. And sometimes you'll be hit head on by things that you weren't anticipating or aren't prepared to deal with. But for the most part, if you plot a course and stick with it, that's the direction you'll go in.
And even when those things do come out of the blue, they can knock you down and throw you for a loop and take the wind out of your sails for sometimes quite a while, depending how big they are. It's still up to you how you're going to dust yourself off, stand up, move ahead. So today we're going to look at what you're creating.
How do we figure that out?
At first, what you do is you look at all the areas of your life, your personal, your emotional, your professional needs, and ask yourself, how are things going? Am I happy? Is everything wonderful? Am I content? Do I love my life? And are they meeting your hopes and dreams? Or are things not quite as good as you want them to be?
Yeah, look at what you're expecting and how you're expecting. Do you expect things to change for the better? Do you expect that they'll stay the same? Or do you expect that they will get worse?
And when you start something new, are you positive and believe that it'll work out and that you deserve and can have whatever it is you're going after? Or are you negative and expect things to never work out?
Yeah, and these answers will make all the difference because if you believe things will be hard and that you will struggle and suffer and that nothing will work out, you will get to be right.
Exactly. And if you spend your time blaming others or circumstances and allowing yourself to be passive and a victim, you will never be able to create the life you want. That's what I call the struggle-suffer philosophy. I think I've talked about that before. I've known people like that. They could win the lottery and you would be celebrating and like, yay, that's so cool for you. We're really happy. And they'll go, yeah, but now I've got all this fame to deal with and I don't want to do that. They just expect negative things and they don't find the joy and they don't expect even good things to last. And that's really sad.
I think it's a defense mechanism. I think people do that because they're afraid to be happy for something because they know that you can't be happy, pleased, excited indefinitely, and that they are protecting themselves from the negative that will eventually befall them. But life is full of good and bad, and you can choose to focus on one or the other. Typically, what you focus on expands. So choosing to focus on the negative doesn't bode well for your future.
100%. You will get what you see, what you expect. It's really been interesting with some of my coaching clients. They will come into coaching talking about how, I tried this and it didn't work and I tried that and it didn't work and nothing ever comes together for me and all that. And we will work together for a while and they'll start to shift their perspective and start believing that they really can make things happen. amazingly enough, good things start to happen. It is so fun to watch.
Yep, you're more powerful than you think you are.
So one of my favorite quotes is Jim Rohn, who said, "You must take personal responsibility. You might not be able to change the circumstances, the seasons, or the wind, but you can change yourself. That is something you always have charge of." And that is so true. You find what you look for.
I'd like to add an addendum, if I may.
Go for it. Absolutely.
That it is also super important to allow other people to take personal responsibility.
For themselves. Absolutely.
I just had coffee with a very dear friend of mine, and we were talking about how we are both so much happier now that we've let go of the things we cannot change, and that includes the people we cannot change.
Yes.
And once we both decided, yep, that's how he or she is going to do things, and I don't have to let it bother me anymore because that's up to them to change.
Yes.
It releases you.
Exactly. When you don't let people take responsibility for who they are, it's called enabling. We've talked about enabling before. Then nothing happens because you can't change other people. And if you're trying to, then they don't take responsibility and change themselves.
Right. And it can also create some pretty huge resentment if you're trying to change them.
Exactly. And on yours because they won't get it together.
Yes.
It's up to each person. Once you're an adult, in fact, once you're a teenager, well, even once you're like 9, 10 years old and start making decisions for yourself. Am I going to do what my parents say? Am I not? Am I going to be at all responsible for myself or am I not? Am I going to go to school like I'm supposed to or am I going to cut school? Well, if you choose to cut school, eventually you'll get kicked out. Then what are you going to do? How are you going to be an adult? How are you going to make a life? How are you going to make money? It's all about personal responsibility and choices and the consequences that go with them. And that is what you're creating, is those choices and the kind of life you want by those choices.
Yep. So before we can start making decisions that support our ideal life, we kind of need to know what that is. And it looks different for everybody. You may see people who live a life you think you want, or maybe you don't have those kinds of role models around and you kind of have to figure it out for yourself. So that involves some of these steps, which are identifying your core values, figuring out what makes you truly happy, and then taking a look 5, 10, 20 years down the road and seeing where you want to be.
Or even 6 months down the road.
Yeah.
Because you have to start small. I've known people who've said, well, I'm going to learn to fly, then I'm going to get a Learjet. Okay. And how are you going to do that? They have no plan whatsoever. They never even learn to fly. And then if they want a plane, they want to start with a Learjet. You don't start with a Learjet unless you have just won that lottery. Well, even with a lottery, it's got to be a big one or you're not going to get a Learjet. You have to start small.
Part of doing that is figuring out what interests you and where your passion lies. Some people really have a passion for artwork. Some people have a passion for cooking. Some people have a passion for helping people. So figure out what drives you and what in that you can grow.
And how do I want to impact the world? Or am I focused on the world or am I just focused on me? Where do I want to be in my career or my relationships or my health? Am I going to take good care of myself so I can be healthy as I move ahead?
We have throughout my life talked often about money, and you were always very quick to say having money is useful because money is a tool. Ultimately, that's all it is.
Right.
If you're saying, I want lots of money, the real question is, why do you want that money? What does it allow you to do? Because money sometimes isn't the only way to achieve those things. If I say I really want to see the world, I want to travel, well, yeah, money is helpful if I'm just starting out from where I am today. But maybe what my ultimate goal is to join the Peace Corps and see the world that way, or join the military and see the world that way. I don't necessarily need the money always to make those things happen.
Or like I always wanted enough money to get a swimming pool because I love to swim. What I realized was a swimming pool to me is a place where we can have people gather. We can play in it and we can enjoy each other around it. What I wanted was the sense of community and fun. And I realized I could get that a lot of ways besides having a swimming pool.
That's hugely liberating.
It was great. I'd still love to have a pool because I like to swim, but I'm not feeling like I really need it where once I did.
Yeah.
So once you've identified what it is that you're looking for, what is it really you're looking for, there are always other ways to achieve it.
Some people find it helpful to create a vision board. It's just a place where you put pictures, quotes, thoughts that speak to you in front of you so it reminds you to keep them in your sights.
Exactly. Interestingly enough, many years ago, I made a vision board. I was in some class or something where they had us do that, and it's still up in my office. And when I look at it, I realize just about everything that's on it has come to me.
Oh, interesting. And rewarding, and reminds you that you can make things happen in your life.
Exactly. And a lot of it is just being positive and expecting that these things will come.
Right. It's reminding you what's important. It's the non-sports way of saying, keep your eye on the ball.
Yes, right. Right. You can make what they call SMART goals, SMART, capital letters, which means specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time sensitive. And that can give you a clear roadmap to your ideal life.
Yes, I always think of this in terms of losing weight, that you can say, oh, I want to lose 20 pounds by whenever. Really, what you need to do is break that down. In order to lose this much weight by this time, that means I have to cut how many calories per day. And then you just work that plan, because ultimately you don't have control over the amount of weight you lose, but you have control over the steps you take every day.
And they're measurable, and it's very achievable, and you're not overwhelmed because it's not, wow, 20 pounds, I'm never going to do that. It's like, oh, I can lose 2 pounds this week. Cool. So it's making it a realistic kind of goal.
And it's the only way to hold yourself accountable. If you don't have a measurable way to do that, then it's really easy to get off track.
Definitely.
So then once we've figured out what our ideal life looks like, it's all smooth sailing from there, right?
In our dreams. There are obstacles that might get in the way. Actually, fear of failure is a big one for a lot of people. They're so afraid of making a mistake or looking foolish if they've told somebody this is my goal and then they're not achieving it, that they don't even try. In order to overcome that, so you don't let the fear of failure stop you, you reframe failure and look at it as a learning experience.
On the flip side, some people are afraid of succeeding.
That is very true.
You have to be ready to succeed and what it might mean for your life. Getting that promotion could mean you would lose friends who were on an equal level with you before that. So being able to identify why you're actually scared of getting the things you want can help you address them now.
You've got to be clear about the whole picture. Pay attention to what you want to create and what you are creating, because sometimes those might be really different.
Oh, that's good.
Obstacles will teach you something about yourself. You can learn there's all different ways to approach things. You can learn that you're resilient and strong, or you can learn that you're not and that you just give up easily. But challenges are really opportunities to grow instead of insurmountable barriers.
And if you start getting overwhelmed, that's okay. That's just another piece of information you've learned about yourself, that you know how much you can handle at a time. So maybe adjust your plan so that you're moving at a different pace.
Exactly. And a lot of people tend to blame a lack of resources, time or money or knowledge or whatever for not moving ahead and defining and achieving their goals. But those are all things that you can tackle. Learn how to do some time management. If you don't know what you need to do, look it up. Talk to people who have done it. Like my example of the person who wants the Learjet and you don't have the money for the Learjet. Well, maybe you can put together the money once you have bothered to learn how to fly for a small plane to start with. Be flexible and willing to shift and achieve your goals in steps.
So how do we start plotting that course?
Well, first thing you do is identify what you have and how you would like it to be different if you want it different. Identify what you have and what you like and celebrate that and be proud of yourself for having created that. And then if there are things you would like to be different, like you would like more money or you would like a bigger house, then you start where you are and set your goals and create an action plan on how you're going to move forward to achieve your goals.
God, that word again.
I know, action plan. Don't you hate that?
Don't like it.
What don't you like about action plan?
It sounds so clear, and things aren't always clear, you know? Like, yeah, I don't know. There's something about it that just rubs me the wrong way.
Oh, dear.
I know.
So what do you do? If you don't create an action plan, what do you do?
I probably do. It just isn't in those terms. And I used to tell you this when I was a kid. I'm embarrassed to say this, but I used to say, I go through life with my eyes closed and my hands out. like, and feel my way. And you were
Yes,
like,
you
yeah,
did.
that's great. That's not going to work for you always, but
You're going to hit a
good luck with
wall if you
that.
do
Yeah.
that.
But I think what I meant by that was, it isn't, I want more money for me. It's like, I want to feel a certain way and I don't like what I'm feeling and I would like to feel differently. And so that is probably gag an action plan. It's
Yes,
just
it
not
is.
as clearly defined as I imagine your action plan would be.
Well, you start where that is. You want to feel better. What
Yeah.
would make you feel better?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you tell me.
Oh, I'm not there now, but
Oh, okay. Back in the day, what would make
back
you
in the
feel
day,
better?
probably I was having boyfriend problems and I wasn't clear enough about who I was to know why the relationship wasn't working out, whichever relationship we're talking about. And it was all about how whoever he was, needed to be different in whatever way.
Instead of you looking at you and
Right.
saying, if he's going to be who he is, and if it doesn't fit me, I need to change.
Or I need to make different decisions.
I need to get out of here. I need to leave.
Yeah.
Not change yourself.
Well, change myself in that I'm like, maybe I need to be making better, different choices. Maybe I just need to be single for a while and get to know me and what matters to me.
Yeah.
And so I can live fully in my values and truth, and then the right person will come. All that
And
stuff.
what a concept.
What a concept.
And what that is you just chose an area to begin with.
Yeah.
And you identified one thing you wanted to improve on. And then you outlined a goal and the steps you needed to move towards it, which was get to know myself and probably get away from all these people that are not good for me. The huge thing is maintaining a positive attitude and assuming you'll be able to accomplish your goals.
Which, yeah, there's nothing wrong with wanting a Learjet or even planning to have one.
Sure.
But if your 2 steps are learn to fly, get a Learjet, like somewhere in there you needed to include, okay, reach out to somebody who can provide you with lessons to become a pilot.
Right, exactly.
Start taking lessons. Like that plan needs to be a little bit more filled out before you can actually start making progress.
Sorry, that's an action plan.
Yeah, I know. I just can't call it that. It makes me want to gag.
Okay, don't call it that.
We've talked about this before, about how when you're trying to get to some goal, you don't always know the entire path to get there. Start moving in that direction and the steps will appear. The same is true if you do feel like you know every step to get there. For the most part, I would guess that for people who have been successful and made plans to get to that successful place, the plan has probably not played out exactly the way they wrote it down at the beginning. You have to be able to flex.
Exactly.
And allow newness to enter the picture. Because the fact is, when you get a couple of steps into your plan, you know more than you did when you made the plan. And being able to identify new avenues is just as important as having a plan.
Exactly. Very rarely do plans come together just as outlined, because as you move ahead, things shift or they change or new challenges come up.
Or opportunities or people or whatever. The universe will bring you new steps. So it's okay to turn them away, but you also have to be able to look at them and assess accurately whether maybe I should go this way.
And you have to be open and not feel like that's a failure. It's okay to shift your goals. I know a person who was really focused on getting a certain promotion. They really, really wanted this job and they did not get that promotion and they felt like, oh my gosh, I failed. It's just terrible. I'll never be anywhere. Then a couple of weeks later, an even better offer came up. And they had to be willing to flex and say, oh, well, this is even better. My goodness, it wasn't in my plan, but I like it and I can do this. Finding the positives in even negative situations. You never know what's going to come up.
And the clearer you are about your goal, the more likely it is that the universe is going to deliver things to you that will help you reach it that may not match the picture you have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have known people who they got married and their goal was obviously to be married to this person for the rest of their life. And then sometime into it, things didn't work out and the marriage ended and they thought, oh, I'm a failure. I'll be alone the rest of my life. This is awful. Then a few years later, they met the love of their life and they were open to it and willing to be positive and expect the good to come.
Mm-hmm. And do something every day, no matter how small, that furthers you along that path towards whatever the goal may be. I don't care how small it is.
Yeah.
But you got to keep the momentum going.
Exactly. Just keep it going and surround yourself with supportive people who are encouraging and who celebrate your efforts. not just your successes.
Mm-hmm.
But they say that was a great step you took, just like you do with a little person when they're learning to walk. Even if they walk 3 steps and fall down, you cheer because they walked 3 steps.
They're closer to walking than they ever have been.
Exactly. And it's the same for all of us. If you're taking the steps, you need to cheer for yourself, and you need to surround yourself with people who will cheer for you.
Yeah, that's a big one. Staying true to your own values and supporting yourself, being happy for yourself, and not letting unsupportive people get in the way. There are a lot of success stories out there who will say they used people who did not believe in them as fuel to reach their goals.
Yes. And just set boundaries around the negativity. Be gentle with yourself. And find like-minded people who support your vision and understand your journey.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it can be useful to not tell people where you're heading or what your goals are if you don't think they're going to support you. You don't have to tell everybody.
Oh, don't make yourself vulnerable, and don't put your things out there for somebody to stomp on.
Yeah.
Only trust the people that you know are trustworthy and will be in your corner. And avoid negative self-talk. Just be gentle with yourself.
Yeah. It can be helpful to visualize in vivid detail what it feels like to achieve those goals, whatever they may be. I remember I had a dream about diving, just, off the side of the pool, into the pool. I grew up around pools. We had diving boards. You can't help but go into the water if you jump off a diving board. But I didn't know how to dive well off the side of the pool. Mm-hmm. And I had a dream about it and dreamt what it felt like in my body to dive into the pool. And the next day I dove into the pool.
Wow.
And
really?
It was just because I knew what it felt like in my body because I'd done it in my head. It was really weird and really cool. But I think about that a lot when it comes to reaching things I want, how easy it was once I knew what it felt like.
Wow. And you can imagine what it will feel like if you don't actually get a great dream like that.
Mm-hmm. You can seek it out. If you want to know what it feels like to fly a plane, find a way into a simulator, find a way into a cockpit legally.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right.
Go up with an instructor. I do know people who have had these dreams and then they have sought out the experience so they can figure out what it feels like so they can keep thinking about it and find they don't actually like it. Don't waste your life on a dream that doesn't actually work for you. Figure out early on if it's going to, and then put your effort there if it will.
Exactly. Be consistent and perseverant, because consistency builds momentum. And along the way, you got to practice self-care and self-appreciation. So you are gentle with yourself and applaud yourself for all that you're doing.
Yes, this is one of those times when you have to walk a pretty thin line because you got to be honest. Definitely practice self-care. Don't abuse yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Don't put yourself in situations that are going to be damaging to yourself. On the other hand, you also need to be honest about the amount of effort you're putting into something. Did you do what you could do today? No, I could have done better. Hold yourself accountable, but don't be a jerk to yourself. They're very definitely different, but sometimes they can feel like the same thing.
Well, you coach yourself.
You coach yourself.
You decide where you want to go and figure out how to move towards that. And then you support yourself as you do it. You cheer yourself on. You got to be able to do that. The most important thing is to remember you are creating your life, and you can create a positive, happy, wonderful life, or you can create an unhappy, negative, kind of miserable life. Mm-hmm. And it's all about your attitude. I have a great quote here. It says, "Your life is your story. Write well, edit often." And that was Lisa Nichols who said that.
Oh, I like that.
And that is perfect, because your life is your story and you write it every day.
The edit part, I like that because it reminds you have the power to get rid of the things you don't want.
Exactly. You can always edit your life. Anytime you don't like what's happening or it's not going the direction you want, make sure you have a positive attitude and shift. The word they do use these days that kind of irritates me, but it's very true, is pivot.
Yeah.
You can always pivot.
And sometimes that's as small as just the way you think about something, because you can't always change the circumstances, but you can change the way you think about them and the way you approach them.
So be sure to ask yourself, what kind of life am I creating? And am I happy with it? Or do I want to shift that?
And then tell us about it, because we love hearing about your life and the way you are actively creating it every day with your thoughts and your actions. And we love hearing about how self-esteem and personal power play a role. So let us know If you want to share your story with us, do. If you want to suggest topics for us to address in future episodes, please do that. And if you would like to, we love it when you review our podcast, and you can do that wherever you stream, or you can just visit us and tell us directly what you're thinking at yourpersonalpowerpod.com. Just click contact and drop us an email. And also you can visit and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Share our podcast with people you think might care about it so they can join in the fun. And then finally, if you want to talk about coaching and how it can change your life, you can get in touch with Sandy at insidejobscoach.com, and she can help you achieve the life that you want. We look forward to hearing from you. And until next time, find your power and change your life.